We're going to continue with our media availabilities for the 25th anniversary of the Food City 500 at Bristol Motor Speedway. We are joined by Kyle Busch, driver of the number 18 M&M's Toyota, who, along with his brother Kurt, leads all active drivers with 5 wins here at Bristol. Kyle, it looks like you have a special scheme on your helmet there. Why don't you start off by telling us about that today?
Well, it's in support of National Infertility Awareness Week, and in case many of you don't know that exists, it does. We're aware of it with the Kyle Busch Foundation and Samantha and myself, and being able to have a huge part of that this week, and having my sponsors with M&M's allowing me to have a special painted up helmet by Jason Beam and the guys that at Stilo to hook us up with a helmet to be able to give away after this race is over. So we're actually going to donate the helmet. It's going to be race worn. It's going to be a helmet that we're able to donate on our Kyle Busch Foundation eBay site. All those proceeds obviously will go to benefit the Kyle Busch Foundation and the Bundle of Joy Fund. So again, we appreciate M&M's allowing us this opportunity to do that. It's going to be hopefully a great race weekend for us that we can look forward to seeing this helmet on the checker flags there after the race is over.
All right, we'll open up to questions. We will start here with Lee and go over to Claire.
Kyle Lee, SpencerMotorsport.com. Can you just talk about how fatherhood has changed your life?
I think it changes anyone's life, but you know, for myself in particular, it's been a lot of fun, and yet a lot of chaos sometimes, and good opportunities to being able to, I guess, realize how I kind of was when I was that age. So you know, Brexton's a whole lot of fun. He really enjoys a lot of what we do, actually. Going to the racetrack, he loves race cars. He always, you know, wakes up in the morning, points at the TV, and either wants to watch Cars, or nowadays it's kind of Shrek or Nemo. So you know, he's learning his words and things like that, so it's unique to be able to be a part of that and understanding kind of what's going on in his brain a little bit. So it's certainly been an impact on my life, and as well as Samantha's life, but all for the good.
We'll go to Claire and then to Joe and Mark.
Claire B. Lang, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. You and your brother both have 5 wins, and for supremacy here, even though it's been a while, you guys banter about that? I mean, nothing's better than watching the Busch brothers fight it out here at Bristol.
Yeah, no, I don't know that we've ever necessarily, you know, gone on and talked about that. I do remember watching when I was a kid. I wasn't here yet, watching Kurt win his first race here at Bristol and having the epic battle with Jimmy Spencer there. So that was a lot of fun to watch and see how Kurt was able to get his first win here. And then, of course, the years that I've been able to put cars in victory lane, wishing I could go back and get a few more of those wins that maybe we missed out on. I'd have a heck of a lot more than just 5, but I think nothing comes close to the race that we had here in 2010 in the fall when I won the truck race, the Xfinity race, and the Cup race all in the same weekend. That was awfully special to be able to pull off the triple, and with as much things that can happen here and carnage that can happen here, it's certainly made for an awesome weekend and one for the record books.
And Kyle, how much do the changes on this track, with you being able to have figured it out, you know, at one point, how much do the changes affect your knowledge or understanding or having to readapt? The team, I know, but what about the driver?
Yeah, every time you come here, it seems like there's something changing, you know, and with the bottom grip strip, let's call it, it certainly makes it for a unique racetrack, more unique than what it was already. And you know, when they first reconcreted this racetrack and did a new layout to it, more of a bowl type where you can run all over the racetrack, I was a huge fan of that you could race cleanly and not have to knock people out of the way, and you can run 3 wide through the corners, 2 wide down the straightaways, mostly all the way around the racetrack, and that's boring apparently. So you know, they changed it again and ground the outside groove, and that really threw me and my team for a loop. We just were never able to find something that we could work with up there and get it to work the way that we needed to win races here. And then, you know, now that they've got the bottom groove kind of going back again, that seems to open it up again for the bottom and the top. You can run 2 lanes, and you can have the lanes be more equal to one another rather than the top just being so much faster and having to run up there. So, you know, having options here is great for drivers. You know, having to follow each other single file line, that's not fun for drivers.
Joe Menzer, FoxSports.com. Don't you think that you and Kurt should get some kind of friendly bet going or something about who's going to get number 6 here?
Sure.
Work on that. You just answered some of this, but your last 5 or 6 races here, I know haven't gone the way you have wanted. Has a lot of that been bad luck, or has it been some of the things you just talked about with the changing conditions of the track?
Some of it's been changing conditions of the track, and then others of it has been just issues in general. We found we had an issue with our car last spring where we were blowing right front tires. That was self-inflicted. Not driver, but us as a team, what we did in practice and all that sort of stuff kind of alluded to it. So, and then last fall, we had a really great car. Thing was fast, and we ended up breaking apart underneath the back, holding the rear end in the car. So, that was a part failure. So, a couple other runs that we've had here, we've been okay, like maybe 3rd, 4th or something, and I try a little bit more, and something happens in those. I can't remember that far back anymore, but it's just been frustrating the last few times of coming here and not really having the speed in order to be able to run up in the lead and lead a lot of laps like I used to. When I used to win here each and every time, I mean, shoot, I'd win or lead 250, 350, 400 laps, something like that. We were a pretty dominant force, and that's kind of gone away. So looking to get those days back in the 18 camp.
We'll go to Mark and then Al and Reed.
Mark Arrow, PRN. How you doing? Kyle, we're coming up on Richmond. Last year, bump and run cost you the race on the last lap. It used to be it wasn't common, but it was sort of acceptable. And it seems like that's no longer acceptable, or how do you feel about it? And if the roles were reversed, would you take a shot at a bump and run to try to win a race on the last lap?
Well, it's not that it is or isn't acceptable. I think it's a matter of who it is, and the two cars that are the bumpy and the bumper. So it's just a matter of last year in that particular instance at Richmond, it was a teammate. So I didn't think that was necessarily the way teammates race each other, but after that it opened it up that that's how it goes. So there's been certain things that have been said in some of our meetings where when it comes down to the end of the race, it's every man for himself. Well, I always thought you tried to race clean, race hard, and do the best you could to pass cleanly and not cause conflict or constraints within the people, within the organization, within the shop. You don't want guys back at the shop being on one side of the fence or the other. You don't want somebody wearing an 18 hat or wearing a 19 hat at work. You know what I mean? You want everybody to be a part of one single goal at Joe Gibbs Racing, and that's when you kind of start getting division going on. So as far as whether it's me and the 2 or the 22 or the 42 or the 48 or whoever it might be, those things are going to happen, and you're racing for a win. You got to go get it.
We'll go to Al, then Reed, and Chris.
Yeah, Kyle, Al Pierce of Auto Week. At what point in 2015, when you came back, how many races did it take for you to feel comfortable? And the other half of that question is, have you seen Dale Jr. doing things now that convince you that he is comfortable again?
I was comfortable race 1. My first race was the All-Star race, but then my first points race was the 600, the longest one of the year, and I was okay with that. I got out of the car. It hurt to stand up right afterwards, but as far as, I guess, feeling like you were capable of winning again, probably 6, 7, 8 weeks, whatever it was. I think I won race 5, but nobody expected us to go to Sonoma and be able to score a win there, and I didn't either. We were running, I think, 6th, 7th, 8th, something like that for the majority of the race. So as far as Junior goes, I have no idea what he's feeling. Obviously, he got his first top 5. I think that was well noted last week. But I think that they've just had trouble finishing as an organization. I mean, you look at the 48 car, that was their second top 5 of the year or something like that. I mean, and he won, so obviously they've been lacking a little bit of speed here or there, and they just were able to get it last week 2 weeks ago at Texas and show us that they all have it when they need it. Does he look all right to me? He looks just fine. Yep. When he's in front of me, I just want to pass him.
Reed Spencer with NASCAR Wire Service. Do you think the VHT on the bottom will be enough to equate the two lanes, or do you think by the end of the race, the top will still be the preferred lane?
I think you're going to see that the bottom lane does wear off a little bit as the weekend progresses and as the weekend goes along. It looks like they did a little bit more here this time than what they did last time, so we'll see how that transpires and what that means. But from what I'm watching already, you know, there's a lot of bottom going on and not a whole lot of middle or top. So I'm sure Larson's thrilled, and you know, he'll have to rubber in the top himself, and while the rest of us are I guess call it rooting and gouging for the bottom.
We'll go to Chris, and then Woody, Kelly, and Jenna.
ChrisKnightCatchfence.com. Kyle, I was just wondering if you were satisfied with the move of the Fall Charlotte race from nighttime to daytime on Sunday, and were you consulted about the opportunity to do that?
I was not consulted, but I don't need to be either. Not my call. So whether it's good or bad, I think it's fine. Certainly, I think it's kind of unique that it's this late in the not this late in the season, but like this late from the schedule being announced that they changed something about it, you know. But I do agree with the assessment that sometimes the day race is a more exciting race or a better raceable race because the track kind of rubbers up and you're not just fighting for the bottom all the time and running around the bottom. So you know, hopefully it opens up and it's a good race. And I think that was the whole point of moving it to the daytime.
Go ahead, Woody.
Woody Kane with MRN. Kyle, you were talking about Richmond a little bit ago. Can you compare the obviously they're both short tracks, but the differences in how you have to attack Richmond versus here, and the differences between a day race and a night race there, since we have one of each now?
Yeah, there's really no comparison between racetracks, honestly, because Charlotte, Texas, Atlanta, they all look the same from overhead, but they all drive not even close to the same. So Richmond and this are more than oil and water, more than day and night, you know. So you know, this place is an attack type racetrack, and yet when you attack, you can get yourself in trouble. And Richmond is a very methodical racetrack, and you got to be very you're on edge there all the time, and especially corner entry, getting into the corners, you're always loose there, but you got to be able to be loose there in order to carry the speed through the middle and have good drive off. So this place isn't quite like that. But with day versus night at Richmond, I think it's kind of the same play as any race. Sometimes nighttime just feeds itself with too much grip and makes it to where the bottom is the preferred lane no matter what. And daytime allows the racetracks to kind of widen out, be hotter. You're looking for a cooler racetrack. You're looking for where the rubber's not, because it's more grip where the rubber's not for at least a little while. Until the whole track rubber's in, then you got to go back to the bottom anyways. But you know, it's just a matter of trying to put on the best show for the fans. I mean, they're the ones that pay their hard-earned money to come watch this race and put on a good show, and we want to make sure we do our best of that. And I think that's a lot of the consideration as to how many day races there are versus night races. But still, I think you got to have your fair share of night races for sure.
We'll go to Kelly.
KellyCrandallRacer.com. Kyle, I'm curious. Denny talks about Martinsville, and he says when he goes there, he gets a little bit of a different swagger about him. He's more confident there than other places, and winning's only acceptable. So you coming here with all your success across all three series, I was just curious if maybe this is that racetrack for you. Do you come here with a different kind of feeling and think to yourself the only thing acceptable here is winning, or no?
Yeah, no, I would certainly agree to that. I feel like it isn't just Bristol. There's a lot of racetracks that I would go to that I feel like there's nothing acceptable except winning, except due to certain circumstances that happen throughout a weekend or an event that take you out of that. But yeah, Bristol here, this is feel like one of my best wheelhouses. I really enjoy coming here. It's a lot of fun. I like it with the bottom being able to have an opportunity to race down there. I think that's what was my key point here when I was good, was that the bottom was the place where I wanted to be and nobody else really did, and that always lended itself to a strength for us. Everybody wanted to run around the top because they thought it was better, and in reality it wasn't until the grind came. Then it was reality. So you know, from there, just, you know, I like going to places like here, Richmond, Martinsville, actually, I feel like is a place for us now that we can go to and win every time out. But there's also going to be the Kyle Larsons that come to Bristol, and nothing's going to be acceptable except winning for them too, you know. So that's why the competition is so tough, because there's 5 guys, probably maybe even 7 guys that walk in here this weekend thinking this is our weekend to get a win, and so you got to fight those guys in order to go out there and get that win for yourself.
And we're going to wrap up with Jenna over here on the left.
Jennifer, just first a follow-up to that, you said 5 to 7 guys could probably come here and win. Who do you consider those guys?
Larson, myself, the 2, the 22, probably Chase Elliott. It's probably right off the top of my head.
Okay. JGR as a whole, like big picture, from where you guys were 2 months into the season last year and where you are now, do you think it's the same? Are you guys not as strong as you were out of the gates last year?
I mean, I would have to say, obviously, we're probably not as strong as we were last year right out of the gate, given that I think last year's win total was a lot more than this year. I feel as though we're competitive and we're close. We're right there. There's just some things that we see other teams doing that we haven't necessarily ventured off into yet. And some of those things, whether or not they're better for you or worse for you, it may depend on what the wind tunnel says or what your KNC numbers say and things like that. So we're working on all those things, though. You know, it certainly didn't bode well for us last year to be as strong as we were in the beginning part of the season and the middle part of the season. We didn't win a championship because of how strong we were early on. You look at the 48 and those guys at Hendrick, they weren't very strong to start the season, and they picked up and they won the championship. So I don't think there's any reason to be cause for concern yet. Ask me that question again in about 10 weeks.
Kyle, thanks for joining us this afternoon, and good luck this weekend.
All right, thank you.